Do you need an update in your small front yard? Maybe a little more curb appeal? What we did here is exactly that. We think this is a really beautiful house. Let's show off the house rather than try to hide it with big shrubs we got to prune into submission. We'll look at these plants, which are good for small front yards, and we'll try to suggest some other plants that we didn't use here that would work for small front yards without having to do a lot of pruning. So we just let them grow into their natural form. That's the style that I like to use for planting in front of a house like this. I'm John Valentino, president of John and Bob's Corporation. I'm here with Chip Valentino. He's vice president in charge of small, intimate gardens, and he's got his camera on today, so he's going to be filming. And again, you can see who is able to come up with better photography, Brendan or Chip. Curb appeal includes screening hoses and whole house water filters and pipes and make it as attractive as possible where we're only looking at things that are nice to look at rather than the infrastructure of the garden. So these are ice cap roses, and the reason I didn't put them in a straight line is I'm trying to get this one to screen this from standing on the front porch, which the owners are concerned about. That'll get 2 to 3 feet tall. I think it will screen it so you don't notice it when you're standing right here. You know, they sprout like crazy in the spring. We'll have a real good idea of ultimate size just in the first spring here. What we did in order to screen this is we put a wing wall about 18 inches high and 3 feet long on either side of the existing chimney. And the reason we did it on this side is because then it looks symmetrical. We think the combination of the plant growth and the wing walls is going to do a beautiful job of screening that. Right in front of the chimney, we have 3 Rucellia St. Elmo's fire, which are kind of a lacy but somewhat upright. That'll get 3 to 4 feet tall. We picked that little Dianella there to screen the valves. That's going to be effective. It's not going to get real big. We wanted to screen that hose bib and where they want to keep the hose. So the purpose of the plants between the lawn and the walk are to screen that side yard so you can't see the hose. And even those valves get screened once these plants grow along with the Dianella. We didn't want to put a step here because it would really be a tripper. It would just be a couple of inches. So we sloped this a little bit. We put the Rucellia St. Elmo's fire in front. You won't even see the slope once it grows. That Rucellia will come all the way to the brick. And then we have these valves, which is nice to kind of leave without paving right around it so that if you have to do some kind of maintenance, it's there and you can work in it rather than paving. We have a drain for the downspout that drains the roof. Really sandy soil here, so we dug a big hole, filled it with gravel. The combination of the gravel and the sand will drain very well. If we were in heavy soil, we would have put a pipe on it and took it to the street. And we did the same thing on the other side, and that'll be hidden too with when these roses sprout. We also went and repaired the other side service walk that was buckling and coming apart. My thinking on little walkways is to make them as simple and as direct as possible. A lot of that was already in, but it used to come way out to about where I'm standing here. So we changed it to where it's just accessible from the front porch. Not real fancy, not real circuitous, but very direct. What do you think of Chip's photography? He seems to be focused on one very steady subject there because he's not doing a lot of moving around. So this 100-year-old house had a number of issues that seemed to happen all at once. The owners feel like the first thing that started the declination of the health of their plants right up against the front facade was the death of several trees in the neighborhood, not necessarily on their property. And it completely changed the exposure that big Japanese maple got and the plants under the Japanese maple. That's a southern exposure and now more open because these large trees that were shading the front of the house are gone. Then that forced them to reevaluate the whole front of the house and go to a little bit different philosophy, and that is to hide the house less and use just a simple planting. And we use things that aren't going to get real big, that don't need pruning like the prior one we had. Now you can probably go to a once-a-year pruning. These plants will remain small and be really complementary to this architecture, which is very attractive. And then on the east side, under the existing crepe myrtle, we used a really delicate, relatively new nandina called Flirt. We have 9 little 1-gallon Flirt, and Flirt does not get big. You won't have to prune it, and it's got a real neat form and color in the winter and fall. So very simple, but kind of a different way of thinking about the front yard than they had before. So this lawn is in bad shape because they had to put a brand new water service to their house. In the course of replacing the water service, they put in a whole house filter. The other thing that was happening here is because the shrubs were so big and had gotten big over the years, they had intruded on the lawn. And so once they took those shrubs out, there were big bare areas. We hid all of that, and we kind of put the lawn back together, put a heavy application of blend, which is maximize, nourish, biosol, and optimize. And so we're trying to bring this lawn back. Chip's back to his regular filming there. You know, there's a lot of varieties of Camellia sasanqua. The nice thing about Camellia sasanqua in neighborhoods like this that have all kinds of vegetation, creating challenging exposures where you're never sure how much sun or shade you're going to get. And Camellia sasanqua will take sun or shade, and there's lots of different forms. There's low growing ones and there's upright ones. So Camellia sasanqua is one I'd look at. There's other forms of nandina besides flirt that we mentioned here. Liriope is another one, but it's awfully small, but it also takes sun and shade and different exposures. If it's full sun, something like society garlic. Here's a list of plants that are good in a small yard. So let us know if you have any comments about our video on a mini front yard, and also if you liked it. Please like it if you liked it. Have all your friends and relatives subscribe to our channel so we can get to 50,000 subscribers, our current goal.